into the morning hookup on a Tuesday. Dare I say good morning, Lincoln, Nebraska.
Well, yeah, you go ahead and you say it.
It's not a good morning for you.
Why is it not? You caught me off guard. I don't know that we've ever had a Kiss lead-in song on this show.
I don't know. I felt like you wear your emotions on your sleeve when it comes to the song choices here. And the emotions I saw were unimpressed.
It was a long weekend.
Okay.
It was a long weekend. I'm missing skin in places that I didn't think existed. No, it's mostly just my knee.
Okay, I was going to say, referring to what?
No, it's mostly just my knee.
It's softball weekend for you, yeah?
It was. Yes, it was. On those, I wouldn't say AstroTurfs, but it's the same turf they got down at the UNL Stadium where you got the crushed rubber pellets.
Yeah.
And so not only, of course, I didn't wear pants. Rest assured, I will be wearing pants at the next tournament when we go out to Colorado. Dove for a ball. And I'd love to tell you that I got it, but it was hit too short. And of course, you come up and not only do you have the burn from the turf, but then you have all those rubber pellets in the wound that are just impossible to get out.
Yeah.
But no, it was fun. We actually our program, our team, should I say, we took 3 teams down to Kansas City. We have 2 teams that are 50 and over, 1 team that's 55 and over. Team I was on got first. Our other 50s team got third place, and our 55s got second at the Midwest qualifier down in, they say Kansas City, was more like Shawnee Mission, Kansas. And it's a good time.
What is it? Finishing first, does that qualify you for anything?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what it qualifies us for. I'm not the coach. I just says qualifier.
Oh, okay.
I've asked before, and I don't think everyone really knows what we qualify for.
Qualified for greatness.
Yes. Yeah. So we're there.
I guess.
No, we've got some other things. I know that we going to go out to Colorado and try and qualify for nationals, which is down in Phoenix, which is great because my folks last year got to come out and watch, and you do good at that. You get to go to Worlds, and that's what I took Xavier to last year in Florida, and that's a good time. So.
How many teams qualify for Worlds? Is it actually like how many countries play softball? When
you
say
they
Worlds,
call it Worlds.
How different is Worlds from Nationals?
Well, Worlds is the equivalent. I don't know. I suppose someone could, but I mean, last year at Worlds we played a team from California, played a team from Pennsylvania, team from Ontario. So I guess there was a Canadian team there.
Okay.
But yeah, it's from all over. It's not just Joe's Bar and Grill from down the street down there in Florida.
Well, I was also going to say here, this is a complete aside now, but it's like this softball tournament being called the Worlds is like whenever the Philadelphia Eagles, what are they this year? They're the defending world champions. And it's like, this is true.
Okay.
This is true. But what other countries have competitive football leagues that could ever compete with the NFL?
If Rwanda wants to put a team in to compete, let them.
Throw them in the NFL playoffs.
Right. And we'll see what happens. The same with the World Series.
Rwanda national team against the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills are probably 90-point favorites?
At least.
Yeah.
But they call it the World Series. And we don't have any, and there are plenty of other countries that play baseball.
Point. That's a great point. Should we?
But
because you have the World Baseball Classic. Should you have something like I know the soccer had the Club World Cup this year. You do a Club World Cup for baseball where you bring together the champion team from Japan, the champion team from the Dominican, the champion team from Mexico, the obviously the World Series champ. You have them go play
against like the Dodgers.
Could be fun.
It could be, but then you run into the problem with whoever wins it here with their contracts. Whoa, no. I didn't sign a contract to play in an additional tournament, put wear and tear on my body. That's not. And so then what are we doing? Putting a bunch of college kids out there?
Yeah, no.
You run into the prima donnas of whoever wins it here signing up. Now, when it comes to the Olympics, you have no problem with like the basketball players.
Well, but if you put enough money on the table for baseball, if it's its own independent little mini tournament with the 4, 5, 6 this past year's champions in whatever league they've played in.
Sure.
And you keep it separate from everything else and you say, hey, LA Dodgers, you will get the TV right share from this. MLB can't touch it.
When do you play it? And where?
You probably play it in spring.
Well, what isn't that when I mean, catchers and pitchers start reporting to spring training about like the end of February.
But they did the World Baseball Classic during spring training a couple years ago, and it actually had pretty good reviews. Each team was able to kind of ramp up each player. I mean, it was spring training for these guys, but in a more competitive sense.
Sure.
So they appreciated it. I wonder if you could do a similar thing with whoever your World Series champion was.
You could. Well, but isn't that when I guess I don't know if rosters will stay the same and stuff like that. The only problem, because if you play it right after the World Series, whoever wins that is going to complain, the wear and tear on their bodies. Hey, we played 162 plus all the playoffs. It's time for a break. You're not going to get our best shot because we're wore down. So, I mean, it's an interesting concept. It is. I think you'd have to get some ideas of when the best time and place to play that would be.
Yeah.
But
I'd love to see it though.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a good weekend. I got to celebrate another trip around the sun while I was down there too.
Congrats.
Yes.
67 now, right?
Yeah, 68.
68. Oh, sorry, I was a year off. So close. Congrats, man.
Thanks.
Social Security soon.
Right.
Well, that's Hugh Malone and Elijah Herbal with you here on a Tuesday. Bill Hooks will be back tomorrow. A loaded show planned for you today is coming up here in just a couple minutes. We'll get caught up with Robin Wash at HuskerOnline.com. We'll talk some Husker football. We'll talk some Husker basketball. I know Fred Hoiberg met with the media yesterday, so thoughts from Robin on all of that coming up here a little bit later this hour. And then coming your way in hour 2, Brian Munson, HuskerOnline.com. We'll also get his thoughts on fall camp. Plus a recruiting update from Brian Munson. Recruiting never sleeps, despite the fact that these Husker coaches full attention on fall camp. There's also still plenty of recruiting going on behind the scenes. So we'll get thoughts from Brian on that in hour 2. Where I want to lead things off, though, to you is while you were in Kansas City, did you get a chance at all to follow along with any of the storylines coming out of the Big Red preview?
A little bit. We were pretty busy, but I tried to follow along. With some of, whether it be, I know you had the fan day. I think Dana spoke to the press too. I got to listen to a little bit of that. I'm always excited when coaches mention names unsolicited, because that's when I start paying attention. It's not like, hey, if you're asked, well, okay, how does Cortez Mills look? And then they answer that. But if you're not asking about a specific player and then they name drop so-and-so is looking good, that's when you pay attention, because I think the coaches have gone out of their way to kind of give you a little snippet of this player's really had a good fall camp so far, making some noise, and maybe start competing for some reps, once that ball flies.
And I think there's two elements of coaches doing that, where one is just a top-of-mind guy. Yeah, he's super impressive. He's going to get some play time. He just comes up unsolicited. But there is also coaches speaking through the press a little bit, and some coaches do it more than others. For example, I don't think Dana does much speaking through the press to his team. I think Dana's the type of guy that just whatever's on his mind, he's going to talk about at the press conference. He's pretty unfiltered. That's why we love Dana and when he gets up to meet with the media. Should be noted, we're going to have some more coaches. I think it's the defensive coaches today, including John Butler, meeting with the media. So we'll have thoughts on that this afternoon on the Average Joe Sports Show. But the here and now is like, you talk about some of these guys. Matt Rule definitely speaks to his team through the media. So there's going to be guys that he brings up in press conferences where he wants to make sure that they get a moment of limelight in front of the media. As a credit to them, man, they've had a great fall camp, and you read in between the lines there. And I think Quentin Ives is maybe an example of this guy last year. Quinn Clark's another one that he brought up last year, where you're bringing them up, and it's not because you're giving them, the fans, a snippet of what they're going to see in the fall. It's because, hey, I want to highlight this guy. His contributions this fall and all his work in the offseason isn't going to get him more playing time here this fall, likely. But we want to still credit him and say he's done a great fall camp. Make sure he keeps up that work by giving him that little bit of due credit in front of the media, in front of the fans. So like, hey, he's not going to play this fall, but I want to make sure everyone knows he's doing a great job. He's somebody that this team can follow, A, and B, want to make sure he keeps that offseason work up into next year, because he's a guy we're excited about for the future.
So you think that the two legacies at receiver and Clark and Smith might not get many reps?
I think if we talk about them last year, that was the story. I think moving into this year, those are guys that are now competing for playing time. Because there's the two different ways that this, like, I think when they get brought up this year, it's because, man, those guys are competing for playing time. We love it. When they got brought up last year, it was like those guys doing all the right things behind the scenes. You might not see it in the fall on the football field, but you will see them somewhere down the line. So I think we're kind of seeing that transition process with them.
And about Hunter being pushed for that third receiver spot?
I think that's real.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very real. There is so much young talent in the wide receiver room. Quinn Clark and Keelan Smith are two you think of. As I talked about the Big Red preview earlier, Cortez Mills, another good day. There was no video at the practice. They came over the loudspeakers multiple times, made sure people were not filming. But he apparently made a pretty fantastic downfield contested catch over the top of a defensive back in the end zone. And that practice on Saturday kind of turned some heads and wowed some people. He's a guy that I think is going to be pushing someone like Isaiah Hunter or even somebody like Dane Key with playing time because of what he's been showing in fall camp.
And now the fact that you've got, sounds like Demetrius Bell, another setback, unfortunate for him. I don't know. In this offense, do you need to have a top 8 receivers ready to go at any moment then?
It's about the number.
What you would go with?
I'm at 6 to 8.
6 to 8?
Because you have your 3 top line guys.
Right.
Dane Key is solidified. He's going to be a top line threat for you. Barney's solidified. And Isaiah Hunter, whether he's first team or second team, is going to be a guy that gets a lot of snaps. I know he's getting pushed for first team reps, but he's a guy that is definitely going to be on the field in the fall. And then you look
Mills,
I think, is probably somewhere around that 2 deep. Could he be pushing for starting reps? I don't know.
But then you guys like Jeremiah Jones comes out of nowhere, true freshman.
And he's a guy that I wonder if some of the credit that he gets this offseason is like, hey, keep working well behind the scenes. You might get some limited snaps this year, but we'll see. He's kind of one of those physical freaks.
Right.
I mean,
was he 6'4", 220-ish?
Just stupid athlete. Like, and I say that in a good way.
Right.
Like, it just stupid good athlete is the way I should have phrased that. Like, it is just ridiculous freak of nature type stuff. That's such a crowded room, though. I mean, is there anywhere on this team that has flipped more in one offseason than the wide receiver room?
No.
From what you had last year on the field, both from a position coach point of view and the talent in the room to what we're looking at this fall, it's one of the areas where I'm most confident in the offense. I think D'Keil Short's fantastic wide receivers coach. He is a young up-and-comer in the coaching ranks, and whenever he gets up in front of the media, you hear why. I mean, just super polished in that regard. Kind of speaks like a man who is 20 years older than he is. Super excited about what he brings to the football field. But then you look at the talent in the room. Ja'Cory Barney, we all saw what he brought freshman year. Dana talked about the fact that he's making strides into his sophomore year and has taken that next step. The game feels like it's slowing down for him and he can speed up. Dane Key is one of those guys that's picked as an NFL draft pick in the top 3 rounds next year for a reason. And Isaiah Hunter got a world of athletic potential as well.
He even took a 4-star incoming freshman receiver and turned him into a running back too.
Yeah. I mean, that's how much talent you have over there. Is they said, you know what? We need you more in the running back room.
Especially with Ives.
Injury for him.
Little dinged up.
Yeah, it was a hamstring injury on day 1.
Would they say that the soft tissue?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't everything a soft tissue?
No.
Break a bone. When you get to be my age, everything's the only thing that's hard is just the calluses.
But no, I think that move from Mosey from wide receiver to running back just underscores what Nebraska thinks they have in that wide receiver room this year. I have a lot of confidence that wide receiver room is going to look night and day different than what it did last year.
Well, maybe we'll talk a bit later in the show about the position group where you're the most worried and have the most anxiety. And I think I have an idea.
Yeah, based on what we heard at a Big Red preview, I have an idea as well. We won't spoil it, though.
No, we won't. We don't like spoilers.
Plenty more Husker football thoughts coming up and some Husker basketball as we'll step aside here. And when we return, we'll welcome Robin Wash at Husker Online to the show, talk some Husker basketball, Husker football with Robin.
Robert Manasala. I don't know if he's asking you or me where we're from.
The streets.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that Elijah and I were probably both born in the same city.
Yep.
Maybe the same hospital. Who knows? He looks more like a Brian East guy.
I don't know where I was born, actually.
You don't?
Which hospital? I know I was born in Lincoln.
See, I tell people I was born in Lincoln General. And they call that Brian West now.
Yeah.
I'll still call it Lincoln General when they ask where I was born.
Mm-hmm. My parents worked at Lincoln General when it was Lincoln General.
So I guess I'm originally from Lincoln. Went to high school in Crete, but still lived in Lancaster County.
Go Cardinals.
Yeah. And now I live in Lincoln again. Go Falcons. Come on.
You got allegiances all over the place.
Hey, I've got to the point now where I'm okay wearing purple again.
Congrats. Really happy.
Bill Snyder ruined that for several years.
Nebraska's not in the Big 12 anymore.
Right.
Or Big 8. So I guess you're of the Big 8 generation.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. What song should I play here?
For Robin? Ludacris, Get Back.
It's a good one. I'm not going to do it, though.
The edited version, of course.
I think I got one.
The Manhattans, Shining Star.
No, I got one here, I think. Okay, I'm going to get Robin on the line here.
Okay. I'm holding the line.
This is the Morning Hookup on KFOR.
Rolling through a Tuesday here on the Morning Hookup. Elijah Herbal and Hugh Malone with you on a Tuesday.
Going with the Dire Straits, huh?
Oh, yeah. Like
right.
that?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Good intro song.
Well, I was assaulted to swing this weekend.
You were first place. I can't argue that. You were first place. Speaking of good, how about Robin Washit, Husker Online, joining us?
That's excellent.
Yes, thank you. That was not my best radio transition, but I'll take it. Robin, what'd you think of that? Good enough for you?
I'll give it a solid B, just because you said I was good. But we can. There's always room for improvement.
Speaking of grading, can you give us a grade from what we saw at Nebraska's Big Red preview on Saturday night? It was more offensive than defensive. Some concerns out there about maybe that defensive front seven. Give an overall grade to what we saw at the end of week 1 of fall camp.
I guess there's certain things that you can be encouraged about. I thought the wide receiver position looked really good, dynamic. You saw some vertical passing game, which was a sight for sore eyes for a lot of people. You saw good protection. You can look at it both ways. You can say the D-line didn't get any pass rush, or the O-line did really well. So I think it's probably a combination of both. And if you want to be a glass half full guy, then I'd look at the O-line. That was a group that they really kind of focused in on improving, both with adding pieces, but the developmental piece with some of the young guys coming up, and then also the roster retention, keeping guys like Turner or Teddy Prohaska, who was the number 1 right tackle in that practice. So I think there's reasons to be optimistic about that group. There's reasons to be optimistic about the wide receiver unit. Emmett Johnson looks really good. There's still some questions just about what that picture looks like behind him. But I think at least they've got one reliable go-to guy in that backfield. And then, Dylan was Dylan. He looked in command of the offense, had some real nice passes. And what I liked is it seemed like he had a little bit more zip on his ball. I know one of the complaints about him last year was he kind of floated it sometimes, tried to just, finesse his way into windows rather than kind of letting it rip. And you saw a little bit more power behind his throws. So, I thought, again, he's not getting hit. In fact, they're not even letting defenders come remotely close to him. So, you take it for what it is. We'll see how that looks when he's actually getting knocked around the field a little bit. But for what that practice was, I thought there was a lot to like on the offensive side of the ball. The defensive line didn't do much. It was a quiet day. but I didn't think they got like completely embarrassed either. You know, I mean, it was kind of a thud tackling. They didn't do really much to the ground tackling at all. So you take it for what it is. That's been the concern, the defensive line, all off season. I don't think that's changed much. I mean, I think you like the look of some of the pieces, but until they go out there and play a game, that will be concern number 1, 2, 3 for me.
Before we get too deeply into the concerns, you mentioned the zip that Raiola has on his throws, and just talking about a guy with zip on his throws. I mean, TJ Lateef, I know he had some of his struggles through the spring, as you're going to have as a freshman coming into a completely different level of football. But the one thing that really stands out about him is that the ball seemingly just comes off his hand a little bit different. He's got some zip behind some of those throws, like the arm talent, you can see it's there.
Yeah, I mean, I think they got a nice piece to work with down the road, and it'll be really interesting once Dylan moves on, you know, what that Lateef versus Dayton Raiola competition looks like, because you know, Nebraska's probably going to end up with a pretty good option one way or the other. So you like the future of that group, and you know, I don't think it's a stretch to say that you know, Lateef's probably QB3 right now. I think if for whatever reason Dylan had to miss snaps in a game, it would be Jalen Gramstad as the number 2, just because he knows the offense as well as anybody on the roster. But from a long-term potential standpoint, Lateef appears to have a pretty high ceiling, and you can see why Nebraska was excited about him. So, you know, it's a couple fall camp practices, you know, a little bit of spring work. So it's, you know, a very small sample size about how to evaluate him. But I think just watching him, you can see that, you know, he's got some talent to work with, and now it's just about continuing to develop that and you know, mastering the offense like with any young QB.
Robin, wanted to ask you, I know we've talked a lot about, and they've got a lot of attention, obviously, the wide receiver room. Wanted you to kind of get your take on the tight end room. You know, what that looks like, obviously the body transition of Carter Nelson, and kind of also on a second piece, you did talk about, you know, the depth behind him at Johnson. And if EJ was to need a break, I mean, in your mind, what running back trots out there at this point, obviously with some injuries and kind of a smaller room at this point?
Well, I guess start with tight end. You know, it's a group that looks good. They just haven't done anything yet. You know, outside of Luke Lindenmeyer, there's really not much of any production as far as tight end goes. I mean, you got Harburg, who's still going from quarterback to tight end, and you know, I think people are he's got all the athleticism in the world, but there's a lot to be said for going from a non-contact position to a contact position and kind of embracing the level of physicality it takes to be an every down tight end in the Big Ten Conference. And so I think that's still a work in progress with him. You know, you can like what he can do with the ball in his hands, but there's more to the position than that, especially if you want to be, you know, like I said, a regular piece in that offense. I think Luke Lindenmeyer is like, they know what they have in him. He's going to be the most consistent, solid piece in that group. I mean, he's the best blocker on the edge. I think he's proven to be a capable receiver. So, I mean, he's going to play a lot all year long and kind of be that traditional tight end. And then, you know, the X factors are what can they get from Heinrich Harburg? And then, you know, will Carter Nelson make that step? He's got the highest ceiling maybe of anybody on that offense. I mean, he was the highest profile recruit in Nebraska's class and one of the most coveted prospects in the country for a reason. And injuries slowed him last year, but he's got all the talent in the world. And you're starting to see, you know, a real commitment to the weight room. He didn't really lift at all in high school because he was busy playing all those sports. So he didn't really have a dedicated off season of weight training until this past summer, spring and summer. And you saw just how quickly that can transform a guy. So he looks very much more the part of a Big Ten tight end. And now it's just, you know, he's got all the ability, but the most important one is availability. Can he stay on the field and be the consistent, reliable piece that, you know, can make him a fixture in that offense? I don't see any reason why he can't. He just got to show and prove that he can do it, you know, once the bullets start flying for real. But, you know, I like that. I like just the options they have in that room. But, you know, again, outside of just kind of the basic contributions from Lindenmeyer, there's still a lot left to prove for that really entire unit. And running back, I think it's pretty clear to say that Mekhi Nelson's your number 2, especially with Quentin Ives still sidelined with that hamstring injury. You just don't know when Ives is going to be able to come back. And, you know, with hamstrings, they re-aggravate easily. So, you know, you just got to wonder how much that's going to bother him the rest of the year, even when he is cleared to return to practice. You hope he can stay on the field because Nebraska likes his potential. But in the meantime, he's missing critical fall camp reps. He was right up there with anyone as like guys that needed to make a statement this fall, and watching from the sideline, it really isn't going to do him any help. So that's allowed Mekhi Nelson, I think, to really take the reins of that number 2 job. And beyond that, Mosey, I'd probably be my pick for the 3rd back, with 5 sidelines. And, I think he doesn't look like a wide receiver playing running back. He looks like a running back. And I really like his ability as a receiver out of the backfield. So they've got some versatility. The one thing that I worry about is just they don't really have that power back. Like, Emmett's put on some good weight, but he's still a smaller back when it comes to Big Ten standards. And so, when it comes to needing a 4th and 1, who's going to be the Dante Dowdell? The guy that was just going to get the hammer those 1 or 2 yards when they need him the most. Could it be Emmett? I don't know, but beyond him, there's just really not a lot of size. Maybe Connor Booth, but he's still a young guy that you don't really know what you have there yet. So still some questions just with the depth, but also a lot of reasons for optimism with that room, just because I think they have a good high-end talent with Emmett Johnson and some really emerging pieces behind him that, just still have work to do, but at least they've shown some potential.
It's Robin Washit with us here, HuskerOnline.com. Make sure you find him and follow him on Twitter at Robin Washit. And Robin, a guy that has, kind of played some in the backfield, played wide receiver, tight end, maybe a little bit at times last year, depending on how you define it. It's a guy that's flown under the radar, Janiram Bonner. I feel like he's played plenty over his last 2 seasons playing under Matt Rule. The coaching staff always at press conferences says they like the athleticism that he brings. Kind of got a bit of a tweener body, but he can do a lot for the offense. What do you see from his role in 2025? Because he has flown under the radar through the offseason.
He was with the first group. Granted, Dane Key was out, so that you take all that, depth chart talk from that practice with a grain of salt. But, he started games last year, and he brings an element to that room that really no one can match just with his sheer physicality. He is put together, and he's really strong. And when it comes to perimeter blocking, that was a big issue for Nebraska last year. Guys like that can be a difference between, a 3 or 4 yard gain and a 20-yard gain if you get a solid perimeter block. And so just in that role, and just with his size and strength, I think he's going to play a lot, if not start. But then also, I think he's shown the versatility as a receiver. I think he's putting a lot of work in just his route running, his hands and all that sort of thing that can make him more of a threat as a receiving target, not just kind of a glorified, perimeter blocker. So I'm very fascinated with that piece just because he's so different from everybody in that room. And like you said, he can play multiple positions. Hey, we're talking about who's going to be the power back. Why not Bonner? He can play running back. He can play fullback. You can do some things with a guy like that beyond just playing him out on the edge. So I would probably continue to assume he's going to have a jack of all trades type of role, but I think that he's really tried to find a home this offseason at receiver. So that'll probably be his primary spot. But, with that, you can do a lot of different things.
Well, Robin, I'm going to switch gears on you. I know that we still have the football before this comes, but I'm kind of salivating like Pavlov's dog anytime I get Fred up there in front of the mic, because I'm excited about what he's brought in, and not only from a depth standpoint from the whole team, but especially in that front court that we're going to have this year. I know that you had to replace a couple of key seniors in Juwan and Bryce, but I so far from what I see in highlight clips and on paper, these newcomers, it's going to be a scrap to get some playing time. And how crucial is that nowadays with the transfer portal and everything like that to kind of keep some of these freshmen like Leo and Grimes in the mix so you're not losing them? Can you talk a little bit about, maybe what this team is going to look like for next year?
I don't even know if Fred knows what that rotation is going to look like yet. In fact, he said yesterday it's causing him a lot of stress and sleepless nights. But in the end, that's about as good of a problem as you could possibly have when you have too many options and too many guys that can play and guys that you trust to go play in games for you. So that's the bad news is you got to figure out who's going to make that rotation, because, in the end, you're probably looking at maybe 8-9 guys. And realistically, you can talk yourself into 13 guys playing at this point. So there's going to be several odd men out when it comes to meaningful minutes, especially, once the level of competition ramps up, towards December. So that's very much still a work in progress, but, versatility is kind of the name of the game. They have pretty much everybody on the roster can play multiple spots. There's nobody that's just like pigeonholed into this guy's a center, this guy's a point guard, this guy's a two guard. Like everybody can play 1 through 3 or 2 through 4 or 3 through 5, we'll just take your pick. And so that's kind of the idea behind this roster is they have so many different ways that they can play. They can trot out 5 3-point shooters. They can go really big and have, a Rink, Burke, Jared Garcia front court where all of a sudden you got a whole bunch of size and athleticism that's going to be a matchup nightmare. Or you can go small ball, and have, Jamarcus and Sam and Kale playing the 4, like all these different things that, can allow you to exploit mismatches, but then also adapt to whatever your opponent's strengths might be. So that's the positive part of it. But then again, the challenge is you got to find your guys, and you're not going to know who your guys are until, they start playing games. And really when they start being put in some adverse situations, when what happens when they're trailing by 3 at the under 4 timeout, and with, 3:40 to go, like who's going to step up and take ownership of that team? And that's always the biggest hurdle when you're talking about figuring out what your roster is, especially, these days when every year the roster looks so different from year to year. That's why they schedule in the non-con the way that they do. I know a lot of people like huff and puff about, the lack of big names on their non-con. Like they've got to figure themselves out first. Like, they don't have a bunch of, cohesiveness in this group. They have a good degree of it, but like even their best player, Rink Mass, he hasn't played for a year and a half. So like he's got to reintegrate back into things. And so like there's just a lot of feeling out that needs to happen over this last, couple months of the off season. And then with those 2 exhibitions, that exhibition against BYU in mid-October, we're going to learn a lot because BYU could potentially be a top 5 team in the nation. And Nebraska's going to get thrown into the fire right away. And the best part about it is they're going to learn a whole lot of hard lessons probably and do so in a consequence-free setting. So like, they've got a lot of opportunity to grow and get answers to all these questions. But right now, I think they're just trying to continue with the whole gelling part, getting these guys to know each other off the court, but, also on the court and start developing voices. As Fred mentioned, he's had to stop practice a couple of times because guys aren't talking, and that's to be expected. But you need that vocal leadership, to start to emerge, especially with so many veterans. Like guys should be ready to take that baton, and we'll see who ends up stepping up and taking the lead in that regard.
Well, Robin, you talked a lot about how they're really not going to know what they have until these games start, unfolding. To see what you have. But one player individually that I think during these summer workouts that's been brought up not only by coach but by his teammates quite a bit is Sanford. The transfer from Iowa. I'm not really sure how they used him, into what degree, but it sounds like ever since he's come over here, maybe he's found his niche and just doesn't seem to miss, and has even been. They even said that he might be the best shooter in the nation. Can you tell these Husker basketball fans that are excited about this upcoming season, what is Nebraska exactly getting with Sanford?
Well, shooting is the name of the game for him. That's kind of what he did at Iowa was, they kind of stuck him in the corner and he jacked threes, and, that was great and all, but I think that one of the reasons why he came to Nebraska was because he wanted to show he had more to his game than just catch and shoot. I think he's more athletic than some people want to give him credit for. And he, I think he's getting the opportunity in Fred's system to kind of do a little bit more than just be a shooter. But in the end, that's why he's here. Nebraska had to upgrade 3-point shooting, and there was a reason he was the number 1 portal priority on their list. And so, that's encouraging that he's looked the part. I think it was Sam or Kale, I can't remember which one, yesterday said that Price, I think it was yesterday, hit like 15 in a row, like during practice. So like he's got that ability to him. And what you really like is that, all of a sudden you pair him with Connor Essegian, and it's almost like a pick your poison type scenario where like last year you focused on Connor and then like maybe Bryce. And then after that, Nebraska didn't have anybody that could make a three. Well, now you could potentially have, Price and Connor, and then Rink Mask, and it was a 35% 3-point shooter. You can have him at center. You can have Jamarcus Lawrence, who shot almost 40% from three last year. And all these guys, Kendall Blue was a 35, 40% 3-point shooter. Like, go down the list. They can have 5 shooters on the floor at all times. And that was the whole idea behind how they assembled this roster. Like, they couldn't have shot it much worse last year. I think they'll be significantly better in that way this year. At least they should be. And that in itself will allow them to execute Fred's system at a far higher level. Because suddenly when you can play with space and you got guys that can make shots, it's, by no coincidence, that offense starts to look pretty good. So, Price is at the forefront of that conversation, and the fact that he's lighting it up the way he has the last couple of weeks should be music to Nebraska fans' ears.
Robin Washit's with us here. And Robin, last thought before we get you out. Fred also provided an injury update on Rink Mast. Not unexpected, but he is a full go. They're monitoring things, but he is a full go as they ramp things up for the season. What does the next step look like for him? He was a third-team all-conference media selection his first year at Nebraska. It was over 12 points a game, 7 rebounds a game, 3 assists per game. What does the next step look like for him, assuming he is healthy for this upcoming year?
They're just kind of continuing to ease him into it. So he is cleared for full contact, but Nebraska's still being careful. They're, I believe, scrimmaging today, doing some 5-on-5, and this will be his first full 5-on-5 live scrimmage work since his procedure. So today's a pretty important step in that, and they're going to limit his minutes. And, Leo Curtis, he played so many minutes during the European Championships with the Iceland U20 team that, they're making sure not to overwork him either. So those two are probably just going to split reps when it comes to these live 5-on-5 scrimmages they're doing. And, they're going to just see how he responds. They're going to gradually every day increase his workload a little bit more and more, and make sure that the knee is responding the right way, avoid potential setbacks, and just continue this 1.5-year long process of making sure that he is 100% ready to go for when they start playing games. So, this is today's the next big step for him, but Nebraska is going to continue to be careful, even if he has been officially cleared to be a full participant. They're not taking any chances with a guy of that value.
Well, Robin, I know Hooks is gone, but we can't let you out of here, of course, without having a small question for your Giants. Thomas Fedoni, is he going to have an impact for your team this year?
Yeah, I hope so. He's made some nice plays in training camp, and he's got such a big body. So they did invest a 3rd-round pick last year in Theo Johnson, 3rd or 4th-round pick from Penn State. So and they got Daniel Bellinger back. So they've kind of got some established depth ahead of him, but Thomas he's so big, so long, so athletic that I think you can hopefully find a role for a guy like that. If nothing else, you stash him on the practice squad that if something comes up and you need him, you got a guy ready to go, because he's shown that he can play at this level. He's had, like I said, a really nice training camp, developing a nice little rapport with Jackson Dart, which is important for his long-term viability. So it's off to a good start. We'll see. This is going to be a big preseason for him coming up. If he can make some plays in these preseason games, that's going to help his chances. But I wouldn't rule out the possibility of him making the squad. But if nothing else, I think he seems like a surefire practice squad guy.
Find his work on Twitter at Robin Washit and with On3 Husker Online. Robin, what's coming up from you? What can people expect here in the coming days?
Well, we got some football today. John Butler and I think Addison Williams are talking later this afternoon. I got the Husker Online show popping on Wednesday. Then another availability, I can't remember who it's with, on Thursday. Friday. And then Rule on Saturday. So fall camp continues to be in full swing. Not much in the way of basketball. I do have my Nebraska basketball tunnel talk dropping on Thursday evening. Right. Should be some good stuff in there for all you Nebraska ball diehards. So got another full week, and we're in the swing of it now. It is it's go time, and we're counting down the days till kickoff.
Sure is better than those boring weeks in July, Robin. I'd say that much. Robin, appreciate you taking a few minutes with us here on a Tuesday, and we'll get caught up with you next week. All right.
Sounds good, guys. See you later.
Thanks, Robin.
There's Robin Wash at HuskerOnline.com. We're gonna step aside here, and when we return, Hard Knocks makes its debut tonight. We'll get into that And a whole lot more in the morning hookup after this. Are you a Hard Knocks fan?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
a Ludacris fan too.
Fine.
Do you want to help find the post? No,
You wanted Ludacris, Get Back.
got to better do the edited one.
Oh, yeah. You can't do a Ludacris song that's not the
Yeah,
version.
we played that a lot this weekend. Got us pumped up. I know you got some of the Heroes team is watching the live stream now. Mike Marlowe says, "Go Heroes, go Huskers,
Go Heroes."
Greg chimes in. Good morning.
Okay.
Ryan yesterday, that was awesome. Ryan said something to the fact that he's always here. He's here more than Hooks. I loved it. About drove into the ditch when I heard that. Ernesto.
Yeah, Ernesto's in the stream chat. We got Greg in the stream. Yeah. Nice little morning here on the morning hookup. The folks show up whenever you're in.
No, well, I don't, but they don't type as much because they know that I'm horrible about reading everything they type.
I mean, they also know you probably can't read.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
Good news. I did go to the eye doctor yesterday.
And?
I'll get some glasses. I haven't got a pair of glasses. I'm going to play in glasses too.
Have you thought about contacts?
Hate them.
Really?
Yes.
I do contacts every day.
Putting them in and out, poking myself in the eye. I don't know what's worth trying to give myself a shot or putting a contact in my eye.
Oh, I do contacts every single day. It's really not bad. There's once you get like the first week.
Once you're used to sticking your finger in your eye, just it's second nature, right?
Yeah, I can do it anytime I want now. Well, the thing is, it only causes discomfort whenever you touch the white part of your eye. Whenever you touch like the colored part of your eye, there's no discomfort there, which sounds backwards, but it's true.
All right.
Oh. Trust me, I've been doing contacts since I was in 4th grade.
I got a pretty cool pair that I can play in though. Barely even know they're on. Shouldn't slide off.
Pit Vipers?
I don't know if they're Oakleys.
Oh, then never mind. Pit Vipers are those big, obnoxious ones.
Oh yeah, it looks like a welding shield.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good.
Like, dude, what are you doing? Are you doing like downhill skiing in those things?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of those at all. But we're coming back here.
All right.
Heads up! Heads up! Here's another one. And another one. Why you all in my ear talking a whole bunch of shit that I ain't trying
Good,
to
it is the
hear?
clean version. I was listening to make sure.
You got lucky.
Well, I picked out the clean version. And I had to wait for the first curse word of the song to make sure it was in fact clean because we have the dump button in here so I can dump. We're on a 7-second delay for those that aren't aware, which means I can go through and dump out what happened 7 seconds ago if worst comes to worst and say there's a curse word in the song or one of you or I cusses on the air.
And I haven't done that. I got close like 4 or 5 years ago.
I had a minor one last fall. So there's a difference. You gave me this look when I say a minor one.
Well, no,
there's a difference on the air between saying a and a hole. And I learned that one the hard way. It just kind of slipped out.
Now the
I did well. Here's the thing. I'm not sure if folks outside of radio understand this. That the standards of what you can and can't say on the radio is legitimately Dan Carlin's 7 Dirty Words skit. Have you seen that one?
I haven't.
So he did a skit back in the day about what you can and can't say on the radio because there wasn't anything that was like officially in place. And Dan Carlin's 7 Dirty Words actually ended up making it all the way, I think, to the Supreme Court. And it's actually like legislated in that the 7 words that he has said in that skit are the 7 words you cannot say on the air.
Gotcha.
Which the 7 words are no.
Well, well, it's funny. Because now if you turn on like TV late at night, some of the stuff that they'll that even on the networks that they'll let go on some of the movies.
Well, do you know why?
I do not.
It's because whenever with public broadcasting, well, not like state owned, but you know what I'm saying here. But broadcasting that goes out over the air, that if you have a radio set or a TV set, you can find. It's during the hours where kids are reasonably expected to be awake.
Gotcha.
That you are not allowed. So I think it is 6 a.m. to 11 p.m.
So if it's after that, you might hear a word you didn't expect to hear per se on a movie or show,
because you're allowed to do so.
Okay.
The more you know. The things I learned in college. Thank you, Rick Alloway. So coming up tonight on HBO Max, meaning there can be dirty words in there. Hard Knocks.
All right.
Do you know the team this year?
Who they got this year?
It's the Buffalo Bills.
Hard Knocks is about right.
Well, I mean, it's been Hard Knocks to them every single year in the AFC Championship game.
Well, was it 4 Super Bowls in a row?
Was that wide right or wide left?
Yeah.
Which one was it?
I don't know.
I think it was wide right.
Who's the kick? Was the kicker Christie? Norwood?
I don't know that.
All right, somebody's got to know. And it might have been 2 different ones too.
Yeah, I love the 30 for 30 though. You seen that one?
I don't.
Four Falls in Buffalo.
You have more time in front of a TV than I get. I go to work, then I go play softball, or Xavier plays baseball, and then I got to fill in for hooks and then go to work. And no, I love doing everything. It's terrible. So, hey, have you seen that one show on Netflix? And I'm like, man, I haven't got to that yet. I'll add it to my list of 57 shows haven't got to yet.
Oh, there are plenty of things that I have not gotten around to, but there are the things that I always make time for.
Sure.
I love a good 30 for 30. Usually every fall, I make time for the first couple episodes of Hard Knocks. Once you make it to like the first 3 episodes of Hard Knocks, you start getting the cuts and all that, it actually kind of like loses its luster on me. But the first couple weeks, I think, are very fun. It gives you a really good intro to the team. That season they did with the Detroit Lions a couple of years ago, Dan Campbell, boy, that was one of the better seasons of Hard Knocks I've ever seen. We'll see how this season turns out. Last year was the Bears, and last year it was, it was not great.
Unless you're really a diehard Bears fan.
Yeah, because like the rookie quarterback storyline is interesting, but I much prefer where we're not getting quarterback storylines. I like having Josh Allen be a solidified starter this year for the Bills, and you get some of the position battles elsewhere in camp to see who's going to make the 53 and who isn't. I think I'm looking forward to the season. That's how it was with the Lions a couple years ago, where you already had Goff in place.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple backup quarterback storylines, but you had stories of undrafted free agents trying to come and make the team. You had kind of that storyline of Detroit. Man, they've been bad for so long. They feel like is the team that can finally get over the hump and be a team that gives Detroit something to be proud of. And that season they ended up doing it. So that was a really, really good season. I have high hopes for this season with the Buffalo Bills. That being said, I don't think there's any former Huskers on the Bills this year.
It'll be interesting. I mean, obviously the expectations for Buffalo are going to be high again. I think they should win the AFC East. Should. That division I think is getting a little bit better. I mean, aside from probably the Jets, but as long as Patrick Mahomes is in the AFC too, it's and also I mean, with the Ravens too, I'd be hard pressed to tell you that maybe that 3 out of the top 4 teams in the NFL aren't in the AFC. I think it's a little bit harder division now.
I mean, yeah, you got to talk about the Chiefs. You got to talk about the Bills. You got to talk about the Broncos.
What?
I'm a biased Broncos.
You're just seeing if everyone's still awake?
Sean Payton did say a couple days ago that he's had a couple teams in his career that he thought could go win a Super Bowl, and this is one of those teams.
I believe so.
Should be noted.
I mean, surprisingly, there are some Buffalo Bill fans here in Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to get fans of every team in Lincoln just because we don't have a specified team. You're going to have some that are fans more than others, a lot of Chiefs fans, whatnot. But
quickly, if you do plan to tune in to the Buffalo Bills Hard Knocks tonight, some of the storylines I'm interested in: Joey Bosa, new member of the Buffalo Bills. You no longer have Amari Cooper, so it's a different looking receiver core. How does Keon Coleman look going into this upcoming season? Lastly, Josh Allen. We all love Josh Allen. I want to see how he actually is behind the scenes because we kind of see that social media presence. That'll do it for us here in hour 1 of the morning hookup. We're going to step aside and be back in hour 2 with Brian Munson and a whole lot more.
Headlines.
Texas Governor Abbott orders arrest of Democrats who fled the state over the redistricting effort. Attorney General Bondi directs federal prosecutors to investigate Obama over Russian election interference. Congressman Mike Flood has a crowded and contentious town hall at UNL.
Don't miss a thing. Stay connected for whatever's next.
On air and on demand, 24/7. FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textingterms.us. Texting enrolls you for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply, stop to opt out.
There's a lot on the line in divorce. This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell, the largest family law firm in the country, with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. But being big doesn't mean less personal or less local. Our attorneys live and work in your community, and as neighbors, they understand the challenges your families face. Divorce is complicated. It affects every part of your life, your home, savings, retirement, and of course, kids. So when you find yourself facing divorce and the unexpected directions that it can take, it's times like this that you need a partner you can count on.
If you're a man facing divorce, contact Cordell & Cordell today to connect with a local divorce attorney who understands the challenges you're facing on a personal level. Text GO77 to 323232. GO77 to 323232. GO77 to 323232. 1221 N Street, Lincoln.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Lincoln's local news, talk, sports, and weather station. FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR, and KFRX HD3, Lincoln.
From ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. More movement on the Epstein files. The House Oversight Committee has just subpoenaed the Justice Department for all of the Jeffrey Epstein information. They've also issued subpoenas for deposition for Bill and Hillary Clinton and 8 former top law enforcement officials. Texas Democrats still staying away from Austin to avoid voting on the new Republican redistricting plan that will likely hand 5 more seats to the GOP next fall. ABC's Jonathan Karl.
The governor of Texas is not only threatening to arrest the more than 50 Democratic lawmakers who have left Austin, he has ordered the Texas Rangers to investigate whether they got illegal financial support when they left the state. State Attorney General Ken Paxton echoed the governor's threat and said Democrats should, quote, be swiftly arrested, punished, and face the full force of the law.
Police in Tennessee have just announced that the man they had been looking for in connection with the killings of the parents, grandmother, and uncle of an infant found alone has been arrested. Word that Austin Drummond had been detained came after reports that he had been spotted in a neighborhood. Wildfires in Canada causing air quality issues and alerts across parts of the Midwest to the Northeast, including in Boston, Chicago, Detroit, and New York. In the U.S., hot, dry conditions are leading to more fires in the West as well.
We're seeing more fires burning, more than 1,200 acres in the Rosa Fire. Evacuations are in place, and that's just one of many, not only in California, but other Western states. The smoke from the Gifford fire actually has been moving all the way to Nevada. Yesterday, Las Vegas had those really hazy, smoky skies. So a lot of people across the nation dealing with that and going to still. From Wednesday afternoon, you'll still see it north and west of Los Angeles, but even some of those hazy skies down to San Diego.
ABC Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z. Violent crime decreasing across the country. New numbers just in from the FBI show a nearly 5% decrease in violent crime last year compared to the previous year. This is ABC News.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduce stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. Stroke risk may increase. Eliquis can cause serious and potentially fatal bleeding. Don't take if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or bleed longer. A spinal injection increases blood clot risk, which may cause paralysis. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or bruising, or back pain, tingling, numbness, muscle weakness, or incontinence. Aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Mike Flood faces a fiery town hall in Lincoln. Good morning. It's 10:03 here in the newsroom of KFOR. I'm Elijah Herbal. Tensions were high at U.S. Congressman Mike Flood's town hall at Kimball Recital Hall on UNL's campus last night. Flood defended his support of President Donald Trump's policies on immigration, the economy, and more.
Have you ever spoken out against this administration and its Project 2025, which is a fascist machine?
Fascists don't hold town halls with open question and answer series.
Flood telling our media partner 1011 News that he welcomed both the support and criticism that he faced last night.
This is part of the process. This is the town square. Sometimes it's the loudest voices. Sometimes it's some of the quietest. They're all here to take in democracy at this level, and it's my job to answer their questions.
Flood also said that this would be his last town hall of 2025. The University of Nebraska-Lincoln plans to cut $27.5 million from their budget by the end of 2025. In a letter on Monday, Chancellor Rodney Bennett said UNL's revenue has failed to keep up with their expenses, blaming downward trends in both state funding and tuition. UNL leadership plans to draft a framework for budget reduction this week before a plan is proposed to President Jeffrey Gould in October, followed by full consideration by the regents in December. New research by the Kaiser Family Foundation, a health policy organization, shows Nebraska has the lowest opioid overdose death rate in the country, 8.5 deaths per 100,000 people, well below the national average of 31 deaths per 100,000. In 2023, the CDC reported that Nebraska recorded 172 overdose deaths, and opioids were involved in just under half of them. We do have a chance of rain in the forecast this afternoon. Otherwise, 85 degrees and sunny in the capital city. For KFOR News, this is Elijah Herbal.
When you choose new flooring, you don't want to wait for weeks or months to enjoy it. You want it installed right away. Hi, Steve Carper from O Street Carpet. We hear stories every day about long waits and installation charges way higher than necessary. When you choose O Street Carpet, we'll measure at a much better price. Stop in, shop now. Proud to be Lincoln's choice for nearly 50 years.
O Street Carpet.
1732 O Street and ostreetcarpet.com.
Now there's a new way to take charge of your blood sugar. Introducing new Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula from the makers of the nation's best-selling garlic supplement. New Garlic helps maintain healthy blood sugar levels with clinically supported levels of garlic, plus a custom blend of vitamins and minerals, and it's odor-free. Take charge of your blood sugar with new Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula. These statements have not been
This is the Morning Hookup on KFOR.
Maybe we're just trying too hard when really it's closer than it is too far. 'Cause I'm in too deep and I'm trying to keep up above in my head instead of going under.
The look of confusion on Hugh Malone's face right now is one that I wish I could frame. Never heard this song before, have you?
I've heard it.
Can you name the artist?
No, I didn't listen to a lot of that 90s grunge stuff.
Can you name
Like
the song?
the Green Day type of music type, that type of stuff.
Yeah. That was some of the songs of my childhood. Some of these songs were on like Madden games back in the day. No.
Yeah, they picked some obscure songs for a lot of those sport video games back then.
This isn't obscure. Would you like to guess how many views on YouTube this song has? It's In Too Deep by Sum 41.
11 million.
Way low.
Oh. 23 million.
262 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, now it's 262 million and one, huh?
It is. It is. Anyway, that's a whole 90 seconds wasted on In Too Deep by Sum 41. Great song, though. Add it to your playlist, maybe.
Add that to my playlist.
Oh, yeah.
That it fits with nothing else that I like. I have a wide spectrum, and they kind of joke about that. Anyone that has to ride with me down to a tournament or anything like that, because
you're going from Ludacris
to
Fleetwood Mac
to yes, right, pretty much.
Yeah,
it's and everything in between.
Anyway, some Husker football thoughts to get into here, Thew, as we previewed this a little bit in hour one. We talked about it briefly with Robin Washit. Concerns with the Husker D-line. Do you have any?
Well, I think I have more now just having listened to everything this weekend, other than what I already have. Obviously, you knew that you were replacing your front three in Nash and Ty, and, of course, with the gentleman who decided to go to LSU.
Oh, you have Jamari Butler off to LSU and then James Williams down at Florida State.
Right.
Really, most of your defensive line production last year is no longer there.
It's not. But you also, and maybe, I don't know, that was everyone trying to get me / everyone else hyped up, talking about, well, you were able to keep Davis from transferring, that he's really athletic. You went out and you took Nwari from Missouri. You've got Cam Lenhart coming back. Elijah Judy, who, at one moment in time was on Alabama's roster, who supposedly has transformed his body, looks different. And Van Poppel, that this, while it's not going to be the same, it'll be different. These guys are more than capable. Now, when you go into these scrimmages like that, and you see this every time, that you talk about great protection from, the line and the downfield passing, this and that. So how do you look at that, though, when you're playing yourself? Is our offensive line that much better than we thought? Or is our defensive line not up to what we thought it was? I mean, how do you take that until you play a different opponent?
It's one of those things that I'm not sure you'll know until, it's a Cincinnati game. But the reports out of spring were good spring from the offensive line. They seem to be in control of the line of scrimmage. That seems to have continued into the fall. The question to me, is that unexpected? The offensive line, you went in and brought in Rocco Spindler, a guy who played for a national championship game last year with Notre Dame. You brought in a tackle in Elijah Pritchett, who started for Bama last season. And it's not really physical. It's kind of mental with him here this fall, like learning a new offense, learning what they need from him. It doesn't seem like he's a starter as of right now, but you bring him in to be a starter. We'll see what happens with him. But I think it also just means good things for your offensive line whenever you have guys in Gunnar Gatula and Tyler Canuck that as of right now are outplaying a guy who started for Bama last year. You have Latovsky, who very quietly was a super, super solid right guard for you last season. And he's kind of that road grading type that you have. Then you have Justin Evans, who the offseason talk with him is, man, we think we could have one of the best centers in the country. He started for you at guard last year, left guard. started his career as a center. I think it moves back to a more natural position for him in that center spot. I mean, you have reason to be really optimistic about that offensive line. You have reason why that offensive line can go out there and outperform the defensive line early in fall camp, because you look at the defensive line in fall camp, you essentially have 5 guys on your offensive line, kind of depending on what his status is, the battle with Pritchett that he's currently in, but essentially 4.5, 5 guys, depending on who starts, that have played significant snaps at the Power 4 level in college football on your offensive line.
You have 7 of those guys that have started games at that level.
Yeah, because you don't want to forget Prohaska, another guy who's battling for that tackle spot, but he's got plenty of questions with injuries. And then you have a guy in Turner Corcoran who's making his way back from injury, not playing right now, but he's started plenty of games for Nebraska.
You alluded to the fact that 2 of these guys are new to the program. You have one that has switched positions. You've had a revolving door because of injuries at one of the other positions. Now, I'm not going to tell you that there's not talent in that room, but there is. But you expect there to be a little bit of a grace period for the cohesiveness to come together with whichever 5 you're going to go with. And with that happening, you expect the defensive line to have moments where they look good.
Well, but you just look at the defensive line and what they're stepping into, going up against an offensive line that has started plenty of games at the Power 4 level. You have a guy in Riley Van Poppel that has been a rotational piece, a super solid looking rotational piece for you on the defensive line, but a rotational piece nonetheless. A rotational piece in Elijah Judy. A guy in Keona Davis that played sparingly last year, but you can see the athletic potential. The question is what kind of strides do you make in the offseason? But again, hasn't started a game for Nebraska. You have Winery, who is a former 5-star, but got moved down the depth chart as the year went on at Missouri last year. And the question has to be asked, why? Like, there's not much going on from the defensive line point of view. And I'll even add Jason McCullough into that list, who was playing, he started, but he was playing off-ball linebacker at Oklahoma the last 2 seasons. He has some experience as a true freshman on the line of scrimmage at Indiana, but that was a while ago. Like, you got a lot of question marks because the offensive line starting experience can't be replaced, can't be replicated along the lines of scrimmage. And you don't have much of it on the defensive line. You have guys that I think there's reason to believe they can step up into a bigger role and perform admirably. But the offensive line just has starters up and down the list. I mean, guys that you only get that experience by going out there and starting Big Ten football games.
Right. And because they have that starting experience, there's going to be a little advantage, but there's still going to be moments until Justin is comfortable calling out the blocking schemes for in every single play. And to have that happen all the time, to me, it's more alarming for the defense, because you're still going to have skill level on that defense, and there's still to be a certain amount of plays that they win. And if you're not able to get home with just 3 or 4 guys, all of a sudden now you're requiring John Butler, the defensive coordinator, to start calling some blitz. And he's talked about how they'll be a good blitzing team. But if you're required to be sending an extra guy every play because your base defense cannot get pressure on quarterbacks, then you're leaving all your secondary out there on islands. Now, granted, we do have an experienced secondary. We do. But you can't expect them to guard one-on-one every single play without giving up big plays eventually. So you are going to need to figure something out and hopefully get some development out of that defensive line. Yes, it is an area of concern. The good thing is that hopefully the first 3 games that you get, that should be an adequate test to maybe get them, a little bit of confidence, see what you have, and maybe tinker a little bit with some of those guys at different spots in that defensive line.
And if we're going DEFCON levels here, I'm not DEFCON 1.
You're not ready to push the launch button?
I am not ready to push the launch button with the defensive line. DEFCON 3 maybe, DEFCON 4. I'm somewhere in there at the defensive line.
Is it the higher it goes, the worse?
The DEFCON 1 is the worst.
Yes. Okay. We don't want to be at that.
DEFCON 5 is like, all right.
That's where the nuclear subs have moved into position.
That's like, hey, we're generally monitoring something, but we don't think there's anything imminent. I think
DEFCON 4 is the lowest.
I think
that's just on alert, right? Somebody with some military help us out with that.
DEFCON 4, I think, is like the resting state of the United States military. I think they're like always at DEFCON 4. They're always just prepared.
Okay.
Always monitoring.
You get to 3 and it's maybe like an orange or a yellow.
Yeah,
you get the orange and you don't want to get to red.
It's yellow. So I'm like a DEFCON 2. I'm like a yellow right now. I'm a little past monitoring. I have some concerns. That being said, I'm not willing to panic with the defensive line. Just because what I said before is is you have guys that there is reason to believe they can step up into a more significant role. And what is fall camp for? But getting those guys ready. They haven't played against starting caliber defensive linemen for 60 snaps in a Big Ten game, or I should say starting caliber offensive linemen. You know what fall camp is for? Giving you reps against starting caliber offensive linemen for 60 snaps a game, or a practice, I should say.
And that's where the one-on-ones is going to be crucial. I mean, and some previous head coaches were not big fans of that.
Yeah.
You know, Osborne was.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll talk about that with that 95 team. They'll talk about some of the hardest games they had were their own practices. Because when our defensive line with the Peters and Winstrom, Tomic, guys like that, going up against the pipeline, that was the best defensive or offensive line that they would go against all year. And you know, and having a good offensive line hopefully will in turn make our defensive line better. You hope.
Yeah, and another thing to note here is that I've seen some concerns out there, like, oh, well, college football nowadays, you only have your 9 full pads practices before game 1 rolls around.
Yeah.
That's less relevant for your lines of scrimmage. If you have shoulder pads and helmets on, that's enough for your offensive line to go, maybe not 100%, but 95%. You can't go below the legs.
Right.
You're not trying to pancake dudes, but
no, you get in there and do a little sumo.
I mean, you're still getting your work in.
Right.
So I have zero concerns about the offensive line's ability to be able to go get all the work in needed. Tackling without full pads on, that's a little more difficult, but offensive line will get the work in. If we get to the final scrimmage before Cincinnati and it's still, man, that offensive line is kicking some ass out there and taking names. All right, then I have some concerns. But this whole stretch period right now is for that defensive line to get the reps they need to be ready for that Cincinnati game. And I'll also note here, I think based on what I know about the Husker offensive line, we said it's with the Husker football teams in the 90s, we're like, oh, your practice was harder than the games. You're playing against guys on the other side of the ball that were second team, third string guys that were just as good as what you were facing from starters from other teams that you were playing on a Saturday. I'm not willing to go there with Nebraska, but I will say the offensive line that Nebraska's D-line is facing through fall camp, I would say comfortably is going to be one of the better offensive lines that you would face throughout your season.
Sure. And that's not a problem that we've had in a long time.
No.
I mean, can you imagine if this was
we're
reversed and you were, because we knew going in that it was going to be pretty much, you know, not a lot of returning experience on that defensive line. And had they come out and talked about how the defensive line had been owning the offensive line so far in fall camp, you would be at red.
Yeah.
Would you not?
I would. Absolutely.
Okay.
But
now, and what do you do? Well, if it's 50-50, some days the defense wins, some days the offense wins. I mean, how would you take that?
That's how it's supposed to be.
Well, yeah, you would think on a normal team that's maybe starting experience on both sides of the ball, but you're more heavy on that offensive side with returning starting experience than you are with like you say, rotational pieces and a lot of transfers.
So could that turn into concerns for the offensive line if the defensive line was going out there and matching
it most definitely would. This is to be expected for me. I mean, to be honest with you,
it's to be expected. The question with me is how long does it continue for?
Right. And are we able to scheme around the greenness of some of those spots on certain down and distances? You know, I don't want you to just rely on 3 guys to try and get to that quarterback on a 3rd and 16 where we have a chance to get their offense off the field, and you're giving the opposing quarterback 10 seconds to pick apart that secondary and expect your DBs to cover for that long. I don't want that. And if they're not going to be able to get home, you have to be able to scheme something on that 3rd and 16 around with that defensive line to bring some pressure so that you're not keeping that inexperienced defensive line out on the field longer than they need to be. That's going to be crucial in the first few games.
So we'll see what comes of the Husker defensive line. We'll get some thoughts from Brian Munson on this as well, and some recruiting thoughts as we're going to step aside for 3 minutes and we return. Brian Munson from Husker Online joins us to talk recruiting, fall camp, and a whole lot more. I've officially, I think, run out of coffee for the morning. It's dark.
Well, good. You've only got about 40 minutes left to just trudge through.
Yeah, well, then
I haven't drank any coffee.
Then it's right back to the news grind.
Oh, that is because you're Jeff Moats for the week, aren't you?
Elijah Herbal, news director.
Elijah.
That's a dangerous prospect.
Hey, put the new nameplate on the desk.
News director.
No, this will be a good rejoin for all my buddies listening.
We got. I think it's at 11. We have the Husker coordinators, John Butler, Addison Williams, and do we get Dvoracek as well today? Probably not. They've been usually doing 2 coaches plus some
2 a day.
Yeah, so looking forward to that here. So we'll also get that coverage. I know I mentioned this back in hour 1, but in hour 4 to 6, the Average Joe Sports Show. I had to think about that for way too long.
In hour 2, we're gonna have Theo Malone.
Yeah. No. Coming back here.
Welcome back to the morning hookup. Here in hour 2, I think everybody needs a hero once in a while. Elijah is going to be getting the hero for the show on Brian Munson.
Yeah, we got a little distracted during the commercial break. Got to do that.
Oh, to get a hold of him? Yeah, we'll be able to get him. You know your microphone's not on, right? Okay. Yeah. No, Elijah is getting Brian Munson on. He is such a great interview. That guy has such a vast knowledge of Husker football and recruiting, and interesting to get his take on obviously the first week of fall camp. We'll ask him a little bit about that. We'll ask him some recruiting. You got him?
Yeah, he's all set to go.
Oh, he is all set to go. I think he's probably in shock that it wasn't Huey Lewis and the News song. I think
I didn't catch any of the intro today.
We had Bonnie Tyler on. Hero.
Total Eclipse of the Heart?
No, it was Holding On. I Need a Hero.
Oh, very solid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you know
that'll be a catchy tune for you to listen to on repeat on the way home, right?
Did I just get asked? Do I know what that was? Yeah, I'm an MTV generation guy. I mean, I actually, in terms of when you said that song, I started to think about the video. Which if I remember correctly, had a person on horseback, and I have to go back and rewatch it, but I'm pretty sure I kind of remember the video a little bit. In fact, MTV has brought back some video, like some programming, like in 30-minute blocks of like, I need my 80s, like they'll even like a Metal Mayhem, and then like some 90s stuff too. So I will tune in on occasion just to kind of refresh my memory on 80s videos. So
I want you to do that dance, where you move the feet really quick, and this actually, this was an intro song for a short series on CBS back in the late 80s called Cover Up. And
it was, and I watched the cover because that guy, he got killed. He got killed, I think, on set.
He thought it was a prop gun, and and it wasn't. And see, told you that Brian knows all his 80s pop culture just like I do, Elijah. Don't look at me like that.
Yeah, that was before the Baldwin incident.
Yes.
That was the precursor to it. Yeah, that's absolutely. I remember watching that. Actually, to really date myself on that one, I remember watching that on a black and white television set. That's how long ago that was, and a turn dial. I mean, that's how long ago that show was being broadcast.
And you had to get up off the couch to turn that turn dial too.
I think I actually had to move the rabbit ears on that one and put the aluminum foil off of it and try to find the right direction for everything. Yeah,
love
doubt.
it. Well, we got Brian Munson this morning.
We've gone off the rails early.
We have off the rails.
Off the rails early. But Brian, as we dive into business here, we were spending some time in the first segment talking a little about the Husker D-line. That's been where the conversation has been early this week. Some folks who went down to the Big Red preview on Saturday night left less than impressed with what the Husker defensive line had to show. We discussed back in our last segment that, you know what, maybe that's just a credit to the Husker offensive line with all the starting experience that they have. Maybe it's not a surprise that they're going out and pushing around the defensive line just a little bit. Where are you with the Husker defensive line? Where are you at with the Husker offensive line?
Well, I think there's some truth to that. I think that, I think if you would have done this a year ago and you would have walked in and you would have seen, Butler and Hutmacher and Robinson and you would have been, and Williams, and you would have gone like, oh my goodness, like those dudes were having their way with them. Well, guess what? Robinson's going to crack the 2 deep in Philadelphia, we knew that Hutmacher was like the polar bear, and it could play very effectively, like in the gap. And Williams was a kind of a pass rush demon, and Butler obviously had his capabilities off the edge too. So, I mean, I think that offensive line got pushed around last year. I think that they got better by getting pushed around by those guys a year ago. I think it's one of the most tenured, seasoned, experienced offensive lines in recent history to me. Like, if you really go back and think about where things have kind of been in recent history, when it comes to offensive line, you always had like some freshmen bubbling up, and I would tell you that typically, like, that was never really a sign of how the freshman was usually good. He wasn't Will Shields, and he wasn't, he wasn't one of those guys. But I mean, I think it really came more out of necessity. And I think now you've got a group that's an incredibly seasoned group. I think they have a lot of experience, probably the most starts underneath their belt, in 12 plus years together as a group. And I don't doubt that they had their way with, the defensive line. I mean, they're talking to like Sean and Sip that have been there in the, at the practices, were there Saturday, had a chance to view stuff and take a look around a little bit. I think that actually they were pretty impressed with what the defensive, how they looked, at least. Like there's a bit of a difference. I think you look at an offensive line, you can say, wow, they're fat and sloppy and they look out of shape. And I think that sometimes like breaks into performance a little bit, but I think it's a little bit more difficult to like judge that, when it comes to defensive linemen. Like, I don't know, like I guess Vince Woolfolk, who was probably one of the best to ever do it, he never ever looked like the epitome of like being a well-conditioned human being, but he was massive. He was monolithic, right? So I think there's a bit of a misnomer there that kind of goes along with it. But I think that could be in play here a little bit. I mean, you are looking in the Big Ten. It's different. You have to be very physical in the trenches, up the middle. And I'd say even more so, like when you're going to come out like in a 3-3-5 and you're taking one of those extra hands off of the line of scrimmage and you're putting some more pressure on the guys in the back end, you have to do more with less, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Like, if you get closer to the line of scrimmage, you've taken a guy away from that. You might walk a guy up that's a little bit closer, but he's given up what? He's given up a lot of size. He's not really that kind of guy that's like a 5 or a 7 technique or anything like that. So I could see the defense being a little bit behind. Also, the late change in the defensive coordinator, a lot of changeover from one season to the next. You're trying to break in a guy like Williams Nwaneri, but I think that those guys still look like they're in tremendous shape. I think that they're just getting, not getting the best of the offensive line. And that's probably a good thing in some ways to kind of think about it that way.
Well, let me ask you this, Brian. Then while we wait for the defensive line to kind of, get their footing and get a little of experience, we do have experience in the back 7 or 8, however you want to look with that. How does some of the veteranship that we've got in that secondary, and then also some of the athleticism that we have returning in that we brought in, how is that going to be able to complement that defensive line then, and how crucial is that in the first few games?
And you just nailed it. I mean, you want to talk about a partnership. There's a partnership from the front end to the back end, and that is that you can give basically additional time to a defensive line and to maybe even like the front 2 units to get to a quarterback if you have a capability of playing a little bit better in coverage in the back end. You don't have the breakdowns. You're very consistent. You've got guys that can really play the ball. I mean, Sierra Wright, He just got recognized, I think, as being one of the best players, one of the best corners in the country. And I just had a chance to watch a couple of games, and I do want to say I thought that his play last year got overlooked some. And I think he is a very good cornerback. So I do believe that there's a partnership when it comes to those types of things. I think where you had a total equilibrium of like the best of both worlds, you have to go back to like the Eric Hagg, Prince Amakamura, Ndamukong Suh, Jared Crick days, right? Like where you had it on both ends, like give me a break, like that. They had the best of both worlds, but there is a yin and a yang, and you can take some pressure off of either side by being more accomplished and maybe a better unit on the back end or the front end. So I do believe that Nebraska is built, from the back to the front this year. That can be good. But you obviously then you hope that a couple things don't come out of that. You're hoping obviously that you don't face maybe a quarterback with mobility might give you a little bit of a problem, right? And getting off some blocks and how well you are going to be able to face the run. So those are a couple of items I think that, number one, kind of pop into my mind when you start talking about all this stuff and being built from the back to the front. But I think ultimately, I think that they are going to complement each other, and it will take some pressure off them because they're going to be able to provide great coverage in the back end.
Well, Nebraska does face a quarterback with a little bit of mobility week one in Brendan Sorsby.
This is true. I mean, and that's going to be the test. The test is going to be how well can they kind of keep him in the pocket. Like you have to form a pocket. Then at that point, you're kind of wanting him to kind of, to make sure that there's some sort of a release of the football or spying the quarterback. I think it gets a little bit more difficult to spy, obviously, when you take away that one guy up front, unless you're really looking at trying like, okay, we think we can go ahead and just match you up all day long in the back end, put a spy on you on top of it all, and just hold the pocket. I think that those are three really difficult juggling balls to keep all in the air on every snap. And I think that that's a little bit of a risky plan. So you're going to have to like almost do it a little bit differently, and you're going to have to be, look inside your down and distance and your where you're at on the football field. Be a little bit aware of like when you should be bringing pressure. Obviously, I think the pressure is going to be very big in those situations about it's going to have to get home. That's the other side of it. Because I think the part, particularly in year one under Rule, is that pressure just could not quite get there. It was always a step or two too late. And it seemed to almost be like a dog chasing the bunny at the dog track, but all of a sudden the bunny decides, oh, I need to kick it into fifth gear, and he just runs away. And that part to me, I think, could be problematic for that defense. But I think ultimately, you can't take too much away from that part yet about how they look. I think that the challenges could be within the quarterback mobility and just being effective against the run each and every time. I mean, they're going to have to stand their ground, but they're getting a great look every single day against that offensive line.
Brian Munson with us, your Husker Online. And Brian, before we get to some recruiting thoughts, how are you going to be defining success for this Husker defense in 2025, given the fact they probably have an offense that's going to be able to put up some more points, maybe a special teams that can set you up in better areas of the football field, and also the reality you're replacing a lot of pieces on a defense that they did have a great points against average last year. How do you define success for this Husker defense in 2025? And
I think they ended up with the top 25 defense, like total defense too. I think they had that the last couple of years, or it was just outside of it. So that's always a good indicator. I think the defense has had to carry a lot of the burden the last 2 years for Nebraska. And now I think the tables are turning somewhat. You get that second year, with Raiola. You get, I think, what people are calling a very prepared EJ back there. The way he looks physically, the way he looks like he's, toting the rock. That looks like he's ready to go when it comes to this season. I think the playmakers are there, at the tight end and the wide receiver position, and the offensive line is there. So I think you're taking some burden off of those guys. So I think it now comes down to turnovers on offense. So I think what you're kind of looking for here is that you're looking for a defense that, I'm going to hate to say this, it's not bend but not break, but it's like it's going to be a defense that's not going to be, I think, as effective as the last two seasons. And maybe it's because they're still trying to find like that kind of identity. I think they're going to have to bring pressure from various places. And I think Butler is capable of doing that. I think that's the part there that people are just going to be very, very interested to kind of watch and find out and see how maybe he tries to make up for not having like a big run stuffer in the middle or having that huge presence like in the middle with Robinson and Hutmacher. What other things can he kind of do to kind of create an illusion and have the eye candy, and do the twists and fake the pressure and do some zone blitzes. I think that there's all sorts of things that he'll be able to dial up. I do believe that they're all physically prepared, and I think that they're still deep, but I think that there's, on the defensive side of the football, there is a more of a need for a player or two to really, really step up, like a Cam Lenhart. This is going to be a year where he can really go make a mark, right? A Van Poppel, a Judy. So those are some guys I think that, you've really got to kind of circle and underline and go, I'm really hoping to see the kind of effort there and the production out of those guys, because if they are having production, they're going to have a successful season.
Well, Brian, as much as we love talking about the current Huskers, what really gets a lot of this fan base going is talking about future Huskers. They love to talk about that. And, of course, the recruiting landscape, just from even a few years ago, just seems so different that so many kids decide early, and I don't even know how many official visits you get during home games, because it seems like most of your players have decided by then. But I know that Rule has really, really made it a point to keep the Nebraska talent at home. That's really a point of emphasis, whether it be a Christian Jones or, like a Fedoni or guys like that. But one of these upcoming cycles, Nebraska apparently now with the star upgrade has a 5-star safety in their backyard in Torrey Pittman. Can you talk a little bit about where he stands with his recruitment right now?
Yeah, I have a conversation going with Torrey right now over text messages. He's very busy. I know that he's working out at night. I've actually been talking to his coach, Abdul Muhammad, the former Husker, a little bit about Torrey as well, and trying to get into a better communication with Torrey. So I think Nebraska's in a really good spot. I think he really likes what Matt Rule is doing. I think that he has good communication with the staff, and that he feels and sees that, that they're doing some things in Lincoln. Some things are different there, and I think he's got a guy like Abdul to kind of help guide him, in some ways as well. That's a pretty well-trained eye, because obviously we all remember him going back to those early 90s football teams. So I think Torrey is going to be an interesting guy, because as time goes on, this season's huge for him. He is going to be able to establish a market and figure out like what the going rate is going to be for, a high 4-star, 5-star kind of safety caliber, high school safety. And he's a very versatile guy. He could play offense too. I mean, he's a tremendous athlete. He's got great length. But he may very well end up being the most highly regarded ranked recruit to come out of the state of Nebraska ever, basically since Baker Steinkuhler. So going back to the Baker Steinkuhler days, and he could be legitimately, be higher rated than more higher rated than Steinkuhler was.
And
so
didn't they even switch him positions too, Baker?
They did. They did.
Was he's a 5-star offensive tackle, and Bo made him a defensive lineman?
Defense.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I think, and look, Torrey has that capability. Torrey could be brought in as a safety, and then they say, hey, we just had a wide receiver go down. Torrey decided to take a couple reps, and holy cow, He's a dude. He's a dude on either side of the football. So I think Torrey is going to have a very busy fall. A lot of interested people are going to be there. And I think Nebraska is doing everything they can right now to really stay in the forefront of his recruiting.
Brian Munson with us here. Brian, last thought on recruiting before I get a quick thought on your Buffalo Bills. Danny Odom, what's your concern level with Danny Odom? A lot of schools around the country trying to flip him. Where does his recruitment stand?
I got a little teaser in my 3 and Out tomorrow. I'm gonna do like an odds and ends section. I talked to a source last night, and they weren't really all that concerned with Danny, at least at this point in time. I think that it's the nature of the beast. You get all these early recruits, and I think that some teams, maybe they start figuring out more and more about where things kind of sit with their 105, where things kind of sit at with their budget, where things kind of sit at with how all the numbers are going to kind of play out, through September, through December. And you're going to have some teams that love to just kind of do that kind of thing. Michigan is going to not just do that with the 2026 class. They're going to do it with the 2027 class because they're also still recruiting Trey Taylor. So I think Nebraska fans, they're just going to have to understand it is the nature of the beast. This is the end of the pool that Nebraska wants to play in, and that Nebraska fans want Nebraska to play in when it comes to go get better players. If you didn't have great players, nobody would want them. Now you have to be able to turn around and reemphasize to the recruit, what made Nebraska special in the first place that made you want to commit. And I think that that's where Nebraska is doing a great job. And that's why you don't see guys leaving the program hand over fist. You don't necessarily see a whole lot of decommitments. But yeah, it's a challenge. Not only going to be a challenge just with Odom, it'll be a challenge with several recruits down the stretch, just to kind of keep them all engaged, keep them focused, make sure you don't lose anybody. But as of right now, I don't think the risk is necessarily that great.
Brian Munson with us here. Brian, before we get you out of here, your Buffalo Bills featured in Hard Knocks. Episode 1 drops tonight. For the non-Bills fans out there, what are you watching for? What are some of the storylines you're expecting to see in Hard Knocks?
Well, I think the big thing this week and throughout the season is going to be James Cook. I don't think anybody that watched the season unfold last year would say anything differently than James Cook played a massive role in the Bills' success last year, and now he's in a bit of a contract dispute. He sat out the last day or two when it comes to his contract, and Buffalo just stepped up and paid Shakir, the wide receiver. So I think Cook feels like that contract should have come to him. I think also just kind of watching and hearing about how the Buffalo Bills secondary is coming together. Their first round draft pick went down with a minor knee injury. So when he comes back into the fold and can kind of be, brought back in and see how he's doing. So those are the big pieces. There's obviously some talk too about, and I don't believe it, but like a Micah Parsons trade and the type of, I think, draft capital and potentially player capital that Buffalo would have to give up to bring him in. I think it's just too great. So that's kind of an ongoing storyline, though, I think, that people need to pay attention to through fall camp.
It's Brian Munson with us here. Brian, appreciate the little primer on the Buffalo Bills Hard Knocks. Appreciate all the recruiting insight and your thoughts on fall camp. We'll get caught up with you next week. Thanks for hopping on.
All right. You guys stay on task today with Hooksy out. All right.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
No promises with you here. It's Brian Munson with us here. HuskerOnline.com. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter as well. We got about 6 minutes left here in the show, Theo. So how about we step aside, come back, do some stories that we missed.
Micah Parsons.
What happened? Did I miss something?
Well, no, I don't want to see him leave, obviously.
I do.
Well,
Ooh.
wonder what they would get for him in return if they did.
Probably a good haul of picks, I'd have to guess. How would like if the Broncos were doing it, how would Nick Benito, a second rounder and a fourth round, strike you?
No.
For a guy that doesn't even want to play there?
No, he does want to play there.
No, I don't know. He sounds like he doesn't.
Ultimately, he doesn't want to be traded. Ultimately, Dallas doesn't want to trade him. But at the end of the day, guy's got to be able to afford to put food on the table, right? He just living off scraps.
He made it seem like it was less about the money and more about how he was treated during this contract negotiation.
That could be too.
Which makes me wonder.
Well, and every other college person seeing this too is probably just hoping right now that they never get drafted by Dallas if this is how the negotiations go.
Okay, I got a song ready to go.
Songs are good.
Yep, that's a big part of my job here. And we'll be back in about 60 seconds. So,
you should. Yeah, Ryan had a question for Brunson. I know he's probably typed it. Whose team is Ryan's?
He's a Broncos fan, right?
He is a Broncos fan as well?
Yeah. We're numerous as Broncos fans. We stick together.
I got a picture, when I was on Colorado a few weeks ago when Xavier's playing out there. We drove by, I don't know what it's called now, what I would Mile High Stadium. I don't know what it is. It was pretty cool.
What is it called now? The name's because it was Sports Authority. Empower Field at Mile High. There it is. They're gonna be building a new stadium before too long for the Broncos.
Really?
Yeah. Not too far away. Not too far away. Sounds like the plans for the stadium are a little over. Well, there was talk of building a stadium out in the suburbs that seems to have been shot down, but the talk on the street is that the Broncos want one of those, SoFi type stadiums, one of the domes. It can be an indoor stadium for the cold weather, snowy games, but they can still have the outdoor element where you can see the mountains. That's kind of the talk. So that's what happens whenever the Walmart family buys you. You should afford anything you want. So yeah, that's the talk. Is the Broncos might be going for the new stadium, which I think their stadium still looks awesome, but that's just me. Great place to go catch a football game. We are coming back here. Little feel-good song for your Tuesday.
That's
oh, look at that.
Yeah.
It's still a good-looking stadium, right?
Right.
So where you took this picture at is roughly the area where they want to build a new Broncos stadium. So if you missed it if you were listening on the radio. We were talking during the break. You got to see Empower Field at Mile High, home of the Denver Broncos. And since the Walmart family has bought the Broncos, they've been exploring since they took over the idea of opening a new stadium. And now they've been buying a whole bunch of land to the southeast where the Broncos currently have their stadium. There was discussions that they would be doing a stadium out in the suburbs. Denver folks hated that. So now they've gone and bought up a whole bunch of land. And part of it's a train yard. Part of it's just other random warehouses and whatnot. So it looks like they're building a stadium there. Do you know where the Buckhorn Exchange is in Denver?
It was REM with Kate Pearson's as the backup singer from B-52s.
Yeah, and here's a fun fact for you. I think I probably brought this up on the air before because it's not the first time I played this song on the air. Did you know that was originally going to be the theme song for Friends?
Before the Rembrandts?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
So that they'd wanted this song, but they couldn't come to a deal with REM. So instead, they contracted out the Rembrandts to do that song.
Wow!
But this was going to be the song. There's footage somewhere of a intro that had this song in as like a rough cut.
I got what traumatic event happens in one's childhood that leads them to become a Broncos fan?
My dad was a Broncos fan.
Okay.
He's from Denver, so
okay,
he wasn't traumatic to me ever.
Okay, all right. I'd ask.
Family tradition.
All right. No, I
know family is traumatic for some people.
Well, because a lot of people that I think the people that are Chiefs fans just go based off of geographical nearness, and I think you get some of that too with Minnesota, and maybe to an extent also because a lot of people, I think Grand Island and further west are just Broncos fans because it's the closest. But as we get closer to Lincoln, I always some people have different stories and stuff.
Well, I got a big old Broncos sticker on the back of my truck right now. I'm excited for this upcoming season. So
now you're sounding like a Dallas fan.
Yeah.
It's our year. It's our year.
Are you feeling all right about them?
No.
Okay.
Gosh, no. Not until you get rid of Jerry and Dak.
I need to pull this up.
Ever. Never feel good. I'm not an obnoxious Cowboys fan. I'm a realist.
This is going to take me a second to pull up here. Colin Cowherd this is a great story that we missed. He had a legendary rant, maybe not rant, but on Brian Schottenheimer, coach of the Cowboys.
Okay.
He was wearing a backwards visor at a press conference, and Colin Cowherd. It's going to take me a second to pull up.
He didn't like him wearing the backwards visor?
Not at all.
Yeah, if you don't want to push his button, he'll go. You'll get a whole 17-minute segment devoted to yourself on his show if you do something wrong.
Yeah, I just got to convert this.
Who would you rather have? Whose bad side would you rather not to be on, his or Feinbaum's?
Here, I think I have it. Here's Cowherd on Brian Schottenheimer wearing a backwards visor to a press conference.
I don't like backward hats. What's worse is a backward visor. That's a 2-win team. I'm taking away 4 wins. So when you sit in front of a podium, you're representing the Cowboys, you're representing Bank of America, you're representing a $12 billion corporation. I think you got to do better as a head coach than a visor backwards. There's a reason that country clubs and private clubs, you have to wear collared shirts and jackets. There's a reason for that. Like, there's a standard. I don't want to look like a guy that's here to move my couch. Like, I want you to do better than that. That's awful. That is so bad.
I don't disagree.
No, I wish I don't have the picture pulled up, and I probably don't have time for it here. But yeah.
Well, and if he doesn't, and if the Cowboys don't make the playoffs, he's going to be moving a couch. He'll be moving his own couch out of the head coach office.
How do you feel? So Colin Cowherd's initial prediction is 6 wins for the Cowboys. 6-11 is his, or 6-11. How does that strike you?
Seems a little low. I would have thought maybe 8 or 9.
Okay. Sounds like a normal football fan who has some belief in their team before it inevitably gets shattered.
Well, I didn't say 11, 12, or 13, did I?
No.
See, those are your unrealistic. This is our year, every year, Cowboy fans.
Well, no. Here's the thing: is whenever the Broncos were stuck in mediocrity, post Peyton Manning, post Super Bowl years, every single year I said I think they could get to 8. If you're saying I think they can get to 8, that means you're kind of setting yourself up for, but it's probably gonna be less.
No, I mean, I would hope they would get to 8. I mean, obviously, it's going to be a lot harder division. I mean, the Eagles are the Eagles. Daniels looks like he's up and coming with Washington. I hope Robin's still not listening. The Giants are still the Giants, but I'll be honest, I haven't dissected the schedule to go down. Well, that's a win, that's a loss, that's a win, that's a loss.
Well, as you look at the NFC East, I just think the Cowboys are in a tough spot.
They are.
Eagles are the defending Super Bowl champions.
Right.
The Commanders with Jaden Daniels, I mean, they look like they have a super bright future. Giants are the Giants. But
so there's is that maybe those are the 2 wins that Colin was talking about? The Giants twice?
No, it's a divisional battle. They'll go 1-1 there.
Probably.
Hey,
Hey, been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, that'll do it for us here on a Tuesday edition of the Morning Hookup. I'll be back to my regularly scheduled news duties after this, so catch me the rest of the day on KFOR.
Will you be in here tomorrow?
Or
Caleb be back?
I think Caleb should be back.
Caleb and Hook, so we're getting benched tomorrow.
So, your usual lineup on a Wednesday as well. We'll have Henry T. Buchanan on the show in hour 2. So that's all coming your way tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out with us today. A little later today, make sure you catch up Chris Schmidt and myself on the Average Joe Sports Show from 4 to 6.